You may think that the geographic location of a country doesn't really matter in a global world, and rightly so. After all, we can get products from China while sitting in the US, or work for an Australian employer from another corner of the world entirely. Tech-savvy individuals and those favoring events like Brexit, such as European Parliament's Conservative member Daniel Hannan, claim that geographical proximity has never mattered less. However, that is nothing but a myth. Believe it or not, even in a globalized age, a country's location and climate primarily impact its economic growth. Wondering how? It affects income levels and income growth by influencing disease burdens, transportation costs, and agricultural productivity. Geography also influences economic policy choices. Tropical regions, for instance, bear a heavy disease burden. In particular, disadvantaged regions are located farther from coasts or ocean-navigable rivers because the transportation costs surrounding international trade are comparatively high. The population density of a region also affects its economy. Many regions that haven't been conducive to modern economic progress generally have high population densities and experience a rapid and continual increment in population. It is estimated that a more significant chunk of population growth in the next 30 years will occur in such regions. Economic activity is always more intense near oceans. If inland, it is most efficient alongside navigable rivers because it makes marine trade and ship-based transport possible. Unsurprisingly, the poorest nations in the world are located in the tropics because the weather is hot, making the land less fertile and dries up natural water sources. In such regions, diseases flourish faster as well. On the other hand, regions with a temperate climate and abundant rainfall, such as North America and Europe, benefit hugely as the land is immensely fertile. Enjoying this video so far? Please don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon to receive notifications about our latest uploads. Thanks! Now let's get back to the video. In extreme climate conditions, which means either too hot or too cold, a lot of energy goes into the survival business. People have to work twice as hard to get enough produce, and irrigation depends on rainfall. Since it becomes too hot to work during the afternoon, they may lose as many as 4 hours of work every day. Rain patterns give them a limited growing season, and some can only harvest once a year. Such is the impact of geography on a country's economy. No other country is as good an example of how geography negatively impacts the economy like China. Are you surprised? That's natural because Chinese economic progress is unbelievable. The country has pulled off an economic miracle after Mao Zedong unleashed his strict policies. China has undergone an inspiring, revolutionary, but painful economic transformation. Eventually, it became a global economic behemoth, the world's second largest economy after the USA and the third largest importer after the USA and the Eurozone. Moreover, it is the largest consumer of essential commodities such as cement, oil, steel, iron, and others. These credentials make it clear that China plays a pivotal role in global commerce and trading. China is located on the third eastern side of the Eurasian landmass and is tucked between mainland Southeast Asia, Russia, Central Asia, and the Indian subcontinent. It boasts an over 9,000-mile-long coastline adjoining the Yellow and East and South China Seas. Given its landlocked location, access to markets is severely affected. It wouldn't be wrong to state that China's economic progress started only after creating the Silk Road that connected it to the West. Let's not forget that all great empires have historically been based around trade routes, but China is an exception because it had to create trade routes and still strives to do that. China was among the world's poorest countries around a century ago, mainly because of its overwhelmingly high population density and a lack of navigable rivers, long coastlines, and good natural harbors, which was further affected by the presence of high mountain ranges. The problem is that China is isolated from the world because of the Gobi Desert, while the Himalaya Mountains isolate it to the east and south. The oceans to the east have largely protected China from foreign invasions, but Mongolia's vast steppes to the north made it vulnerable to invasions. Its geographic isolation at one point made the Chinese xenophobic. The nation considered itself located in the middle of nowhere. That's why the Chinese are such isolationists in their policies and culture, because they started regarding them as far superior to the rest of the world. China had to make its way out to reach larger markets. Hence, it had to build the Silk Road. A word about the many groundbreaking discoveries that the Chinese made, like paper making, gunpowder, citrus, silk, rice, and printing press, reached the world via the Silk Road. The same wasn't the case with European technological advancements, as they slowly assimilated into Chinese development. China is a country of extensive geographic divisions, most fundamentally of its split between fertile lowlands to the east and the sparsely populated arid highlands that enclose the lowland exactly like a shell. China is a significant global power because of its size and a crucial actor in 4 regional subsystems: Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Central Asia. Despite its strategic location, the country could become the top exporter, importer, investor, and aid donor in the world only after the Silk Road and the Belt and Road Initiative that links it to most of the world. Enjoying the video? Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks! China's territory is the same size as the US. However, at over 1.4 billion, its population is 4 times higher than the US. That's why China had to implement a one-child-only policy back in the mid-1970s, because economic stability and growth are strongly connected to a country's demographic situation. It was the world's most extreme example of family planning, which benefited its economy, but affected its demographic balance in the long run. The point to be noted is that the country had to impose the strictest possible policies, apart from making trade routes to facilitate rapid economic growth. Geography also impacts China's habitation. 60% of the population occupies 22% of the territory, because most of it's concentrated within a 600-mile wide band along the eastern and southern coasts. The remaining 78% of the Chinese territory lies inland, to the north and west. It is relatively thinly populated and comprises of a national minority, people such as Tibetans living in the Tibetan Autonomous Region, or Muslim groups like the Kazakhs and Uyghur Autonomous Region. Most of these minority groups have little loyalty to China, as they have had strained relations with the central government while sharing active cross-border ties with similar groups in neighboring countries. Given its geographical situation, Chinese borders are just easier to invade and harder to defend. It boasts a long coastline, which is open to invasion from the sea. The inland borders are cold, mountainous, remote, and problematic to garrison. Although there have been exceptions like North Korea and Vietnam, there haven't been any buffer states on probable invasion routes between China and potential invaders in the case of China. Its most reliable battlegrounds are either close to the coastline or internal, rather than overseas. Moreover, environmental stability has been an issue of concern for China. The environment also impacts the economy adversely. Countries located in East Asia are more vulnerable to natural disasters like tsunamis, whereas tropics are at a higher risk of a volcanic eruption. As the sea level rises, coastal regions get affected by tropical storms, hurricanes, and sea surges. At a regional level, China's climate is changing much more rapidly than expected. Temperatures are rising, precipitation patterns are changing for the worst, and there's been an unwelcoming shift in the extreme weather events distribution. The after effects of extreme weather events, ongoing climate variability, and upcoming environmental changes cut across several sectors of China's economy. China's mounting environmental vulnerability is endangering the pace of its economic growth. The country's economic crisis is one of the most pressing challenges that largely emerged after its rapid industrialization. Its economic rise, a time when China's GDP grew 10% annually for over a decade, was also when the biggest public health and environmental issues intensified. China is a major source of carbon emissions globally, while in most Chinese cities the air quality doesn't meet international health standards. Due to the air pollution, the life expectancies of those living close to the North Huai River is around 5.5 years less than those living in the south. Land deterioration was compounded because of severe water contamination and scarcity. Enjoying the video? Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks! Environmental degradation is threatening and undermining China's economic growth. As per the Chinese government's evaluation, the direct economic losses from extreme weather events have cost them 1 to 3% of their GDP each year. As the economy continues to grow, its inevitable exposures to weather-related hazards will increase. The risk will twofold if the country doesn't limit construction in hazardous areas like floodplains and increase non-climate pressures like the overuse of freshwater resources. It has also bruised China's standing in the world and endangered domestic stability. So, do you understand the deep connection shared by geography and economy? China indeed underwent imaginable vast progress in the past 100 years, but it all came at the expense of the environment and public health. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.